against me. I can discriminate against you anytime I want to, any way I want to, if it comes about picking my guy. And since 99.9% of all the guys out there are not my match anyway, so you are in the very best company. You know, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger
to grace you with your presence,
who isn't my match either. So what are you complaining about? I mean, there are really guys who claim it's some entitlement. Women the same, you know. There's no entitlement when you're dating. So you can say, well, I do want to date within my race. It is absolutely understood and normal to say, and I do, you know, I have this lady that I know, she is African American. She says, I do want a white husband. Mm-hmm. And she's absolutely entitled to say that. And it is nobody's business. And so all these things you can wonderfully communicate on the internet because you
without
have
offending
no
anyone,
clue
right,
what the person looks like, and at this point of time it is of no relevance how they take it. Mm-hmm. They either go along with it or not. So actually the beginning of long distance dating has an advantage here, because people really can say what they have to say.
To a point.
To a point. Yes.
And at what point psychologically, how close do you think you should get to someone before you go any further, before you meet them in person?
Okay, you can meet anybody in person as long as you follow some common sense rules. Like if I was talking to a woman who says, well, the guy doesn't have that much money. He comes all the way from wherever to see me in town.
Should I pay for his plane ticket?
No, he was paying for the plane ticket, but she said he can stay at my house.
Interesting choice.
No, you don't have anybody coming from out of town staying at your house. Are you kidding me? If he has the money for the plane ticket, he also has another $50 to go to a hotel and stay there, and that's how you meet. You don't. I would never consider that. I would never consider it. Not even. Never.
Now, on your website that you plan to develop at some point, or the information you would like to share with people about it, are you going to have a list of criteria that you should follow, guidelines?
Well, I have in my book, Dating
Already,
for Commitment,
right,
a huge chapter on blind dates. And boy, everything I'm saying in there needs to be reaffirmed and verified. It's verified. It's even more so important applying to these long-distance blind dates.
Isn't the internet the ultimate blind date?
You know, that's interesting. I have been on 100 blind dates in research for my book. Mm-hmm. And I find actually a bigger advantage in long-distance blind dates, because you are forced, in order to keep the contact up until you meet, you really have to do something, and the only thing that you can do is talk. Okay? So this is what people do. And they just try to keep in touch with each other, and while they are doing it, they are talking about all these things that come to mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that even if you have terrible news, or that you think of as a terrible flaw that you want to disclose, I think it is much easier to do that not on the internet. You have to take it on the phone then. Okay, you need to talk to people on the phone before you meet them. Do not ever make that mistake to go straight from the internet to a blind date. I would never do that. You need to hear the voice of a person. You need to hear how they talk to you. I had this one guy, Mark is his name, and he was so appealing in his email. He was so appealing on his profile. And then I heard his voice and the way he was talking to me, and I realized that he was totally disrespectful of me in some way. He never would let me finish what I had to say. He never asked me. He didn't care what, you know, it is a total different thing to have a real conversation on the phone. And he had this arrogant thing in his voice too sometimes, talking down to me, which I'm very allergic to. Okay? So you will never know that from the messages that you get on the email. Never.
You wouldn't?
Not even as a professional person. There is just no indication for that.
No way of knowing on a personal level if they know which fork is the correct one to use.
Absolutely. And there are more things than that. You know, they will when you talk to somebody on the phone, they have to spontaneously answer back to you or pick up the conversation and continue. On the internet, they can pause. I can pause any time, any length of time and think about how do I want to say this. In my case, it's an advantage because English is my third language, and it gives me time to really say what I want to say to this guy. And I can actually go back and correct it and make it a little more funny or lighthearted or whatever, you know? So in my case,
So you
that's an
can edit.
advantage. What?
Edit
I can
your-
edit,
yes.
yes. And you can save the note that you want to send, and then you can think about it, and then in the evening when you want to send it off or whenever, you can say, oh my God, he may misunderstand that. Let's do it again.
Well,
you
what,
know?
what about pen pal relationships? Where do they fit in?
Well, there are plenty of pen pals on the internet. I'm telling you that. Today, this morning, when I checked my messages, I found on Matchmaker another guy. He was sending me a note, wanting a hug, and he is much younger than me. And I sent him a note. You know, you must have pushed the wrong button because I have never spoken to you before, and there may be some lady waiting out there for this offer of a hug, not getting it. It's not me. And he wrote back to me, no. I absolutely, I read your profile and I absolutely meant to send this to you. Well, sweetheart, unfortunately, I don't have time to hug the entire male population of the United States out there. You got to find another
And there
lady
are
to hug.
responses that you ignore altogether, right?
Well, if they continue, I ignore it. There is just a point where you have to cut it off, you know. And if you want to continue those conversations, you can live on that internet. I'm telling you. There are people calling me from Texas. He calls and says to me, "Whoa, what a woman you are! You're so interesting!" And oh my God! And he gives me all this flattery, you know. And then he says, "I really want to meet you, Liesa." And okay, so we talk about, well, let's see about that. Why not? You know, I'm always all for it to meet somebody. That's what I'm doing it for. So, so he says after 5 minutes in the conversation, well, if I come to town and I spend all this money and I'm coming up there all the way from Texas, from Houston, are you going to sleep with me? I said, what?
What?
You got to be kidding. And I said, well, you know, I can travel around the country meeting all these women, nothing ever happens. And I said, well, that is not my problem. Maybe you better book a flight to Las Vegas. It's cheaper, and you may get what you want, you know. Not in Seattle, I'm sorry. And then they hang up, and that's it. And there are also a lot of people who really want to have telephone sex. It seems to be a very, very
It's a large
popular
industry.
thing. You, as a married man, wouldn't know.
No, but it's a large industry.
Absolutely.
And-
Absolutely.
And
I mean, this internet dating covers all issues of shallow sexual needs, it keeps people from getting all depressed about being lonely, you know. It's
But your focus is on dating for commitment and how the internet can be a part of a tool, of an array of tools to
Yeah.
help move that along.
See, the problem comes in after you, and this is really the challenge. Now, I met those two guys once. One of them, I would say, we were not a match for each other, but I really liked him. And he liked me, I could tell. And if the thing would have gone a little different, maybe I would have ended up to change my mind, saying, well, maybe we could have worked it